CMMC has been in the news a lot lately with confusion on the direction and the requirements around the guidance. To discuss what this means, we have the esteemed cybersecurity and cyber compliance specialist, Stacey Cameron, CEO of CyCam Strategies. Hi, Stacey.
Hi, Ashley. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming. So let's start. So what exactly is CMMC?
Well, it's a lot, but we'll we'll keep it concise for this call. So essentially, CMC is the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Program. It focuses on DoD's information security requirements to protect sensitive, unclassified information. So it's designed to provide consistency in the implementation of your cybersecurity requirements, especially for the defense industrial base and those also known as the DIB or the DIB partners and companies that is supporting the defense industrial base. So, but specifically per DoD CIO, CMC is designed to safeguard your sensitive information to protect the warfighter, right? That's what a lot of these requirements and guidelines are targeted to secure. They're going to enforce DIB security standards to meet the evolving threats as you look into your information security landscape. You're going to ensure accountability and feasible compliance requirements. And you also want to look at the culture, right? So you want to perpetuate the collaborative culture within cybersecurity and cyber resilience, right? So as the attack surfaces grow, the threats are growing. So you want to make sure that you have a starting point for those that are working in support of the warfighter. So you also do that. Why do you want to do that? Is you want to maintain the overall public trust with these standardized requirements. Many of the requirements though under CMMC are currently required. So it's not like it's something that's new or unheard of, but they're currently being required under DoD federal regulations. So if you heard of DFARS or familiar with DFARS, those regulatory requirements is where you would see a lot of the requirements that are going to be that you're responsible for under CMMC. The addition of the third-party assessment component, which comes along with the CMMC program, that's where it starts enhancing that reliability of your existing regulations, right? So previously, under DFARS, you had to do your self-assessment questionnaire, and you had to report that within the DoD system. So right now, under CMMC, you are required in some aspects to have a third-party assessor. So there's 3 levels. CMMC 2.0 is the version that we're on right now. And it offers 3 levels of compliance. So your level 1 is more foundational. It has about 15 or so practices or requirements that companies must perform, and you have to perform an annual self-assessment. So you do perform that assessment and you report your scores within the system. Under also you have level 2, which is more advanced, that has about 110 practices. So these are the ones that are been currently required under NIST 800-171. This is what people are self-assessing to right now. But instead of a self-assessment being a requirement, now there's a third party that has to be approved under the CMMC program, and those are going to be your third party assessors. And that's going to happen every 3 years. Now, level 3, that's expert, right? So that is still in development on which actual practices is going to be greater than level 2. So it's upwards of 110 practices, and it's going to pull from not just 800-171, but your NIST 800-172. And that one's going to be a government-led assessment. So it's just increasing the requirements and increasing the scrutiny, shall we say, the higher you go up. And that's always dealing with what are you doing, right? Are you having just contract information, federal contract information, or are you dealing with controlled unclassified information? Or maybe you're dealing with even more sensitive controlled unclassified information.
So are other industries outside of the DoD contractors looking at CMMC?
Yes, right. So, I mean, similar when you look at different types of regulations and frameworks and what have you, CMMC is falling in that aspect as well. You have insurance companies where, okay, there are certain requirements. Your insurance companies are being a little bit more rigorous. They're starting to want to require evidence that you are doing your due diligence. So some of those may be looking into some areas, as in healthcare, and healthcare companies may be looking into that as well as your civilian government contracts. So CMMC, of course, is being pushed out and led under initiatives of DoD, But some of the civilian areas are like, hey, this is a good idea. Maybe we can start putting these in our federal contracts as requirements for our contractors.
So this is huge. So what should enterprises be doing to prepare for these requirements?
The good thing about it is there's a lot of information online that's put out by the DoD, that's also put out by the CMMC advisory board. And what they can do is there are self-assessments. So you can start by doing your own self-assessments, identifying your gaps. That way you're able to really put together a strong strategic plan and identify advisors, right? So, my company, CyCam Strategies, is in the business of advising. So as a registered practitioner, I do the testing, and we do the requirements and the training that you have to do. Not the testing, but the training that's required under CMMC, so we can stay current with the guidelines. And while we're still waiting for the official rulemaking process to complete, you already know pretty much the pathway that we're trending. So look at those 800, 171, look at your organization, see what you need to put in place. Do you have your documentation in place? How well, are you strong with your implementation? Can you anticipate, hey, if I'm a subcontractor and I'm working with a prime, how much am I responsible for? So you may not be responsible for the same level of compliance that your prime is. So let's say that you have a prime that's required to do level 2, and maybe on your systems you don't have level 2 controlled information. So you may still need to have a level 1 type of assessment that's applicable to you. So really understanding your overall scope, where your organization falls in, and start preparing, start doing those self-assessments, start identifying those advisors that are familiar with the requirements and the practices under CMMC, and then just go for it. It's coming.
So what are the requirements for identity in the CMMC guidance?
So under CMC, a lot of the identity requirements, if you've worked with other federal requirements from a NIST standpoint, a lot of the requirements are still applicable under CMMC. So identity, you have to have unique identities. You're going to need to review your various accounts. You're going to need to make sure that even, nowadays you're starting hearing a lot more of moving towards zero trust and what have you. So those things are coming up. CMC does not say that specifically for that, but additional directives are coming out and leaning towards that direction. So a lot of things that you want to do is just making sure that you have the appropriate unique identifiers, as well as the authorization levels for the various services and applications. You can't just assume that everyone has the same position, so they need the same identity and access levels, but you want to make sure that these things are spelled out for the appropriate required access. We're still looking at least privilege principles. Those things are being consistent. So just making sure that your organization is not able to just implement them, but audit them as well in real time, ideally.
Perfect. So Garrett, how does YouAttest meet these audit requirements for the CMMC?
Exactly as Stacey spelled out, CMMC is borrowing off of ideas, concepts, and the work of the other NIST principles. CMMC is based on 800-171, which also imbibes NIST 853 PR AC-6 is principle of least privilege, and we live off of that. So that's what YouAttest does. As Stacey says, it's really important that the key accounts and the key roles be reviewed, and that's what YouAttest does. It allows you to automate those reviews continuously, month after month, and then enforces the principle of least privilege. That's it.
Perfect. So Stacey, how can people reach you at CyCam Strategies?
You can go to our website, which is www.cycam, so cycam.io. You can also email us directly at info@cycam.io. And we're also on LinkedIn, so you can find us at CyCam Strategies on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And we at YouAttest can be reached at youattest.com, or just write us at info@youattest.com. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Garrett.
Thanks a lot,
Ashley.
Stacey.
Thanks, Garrett.